Okay, so everyone, welcome to today's seminar hosted by the New Jersey Trail Conference out of Mahwah, New Jersey. This is the Borough of Oakland and Borough of Franklin Lakes Employee Wellness Program seminar on how to best plan, prepare, and execute your next hiking adventure here in North Jersey. So I would like to welcome Lori Rushman, who is account executive for Valley Health System, and Jennifer Zach, who is the charitable gifts manager and events coordinator for the New Jersey Trail Conference. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for both Oakland and Franklin Lakes for having me here today and spending your lunch break. It's a beautiful fall day, so hopefully this webinar on planning, preparing, and executing your next hiking adventure will get you in the mindset and ready to go out and explore the woods. So just a little bit about the Trail Conference. The Trail Conference is a 501c nonprofit. Our headquarters is located in Mahwah, so neighbors of Oakland and Franklin Lakes. Our headquarters is at the Darlington Schoolhouse. And what the Trail Conference does is it builds, maintains trails, bridges, steps, boardwalks, and more for over 2,100 miles of public trails. I like to give the example for people to visually 2,100 miles is a really big number, but visually, what that is when you think of the Appalachian Trail runs from Georgia to Maine, that's also just over 2,000 miles. So the Trail Conference maintains 2,100 miles just in northern New Jersey and southern New York. And so in addition to the actual trails, we protect the natural areas they cross through. We purchase land with some of our other partners. We are advocates, advocating for a stronger legislation on environmental issues, and we restore native habitat, native plant habitats. So it seems like a very lofty goal that we do, and we do all of this by engaging 2,400 volunteers who donate over 100,000 hours annually. So where are the adventures? This is a beautiful time to explore it. So in northern New Jersey, we maintain about 750 miles of trails, which are home to some of the famous stretches of the Appalachian Trail, the Highlands Trail, the Long Path. All of the major state parks, national parks and recreational areas. And then in New York, we have the bulk of our trails, which is 1,400 miles, includes some of the mentioned above highlighted trails, in addition to the Gunks Ridge Trail, home of the Hudson Valley, which has many beautiful areas to explore that are close and convenient for Bergen County residents to explore, such as Bear Mountain, Breakneck Ridge, Sterling Forest, Black Rock Forest. And then if you're really looking to get the experience of hiking, head a little bit more north to the Shawangunk and the Catskills. So the benefits of hiking. I think hiking is a really great pastime that anybody at any skill level can enjoy. But there are a lot of wonderful hiking benefits that come along with that, health benefits that come along with hiking. In the past 18 months, the pandemic has sent a lot of people into a spiral, and the trails have seen more boots at the trailhead and helping people wade through this pandemic. So in addition to being a really great thing that people can jump into during the pandemic, it cuts your risk of heart disease, it helps control your weight, improves your blood sugar levels, reduce your blood pressure, increase your bone density, and it strengthens a whole list, a very holistic approach to your body, including the core, glutes, quads, hamstrings, hips, lower body, and upper body. But most importantly, especially during these last 18 months, is it boosts your mood. So, if I could be in a bad mood, the moment I step outside and I start walking, maybe about 10 minutes into it, I really feel that I just feel better. It gives you a really positive impact on your mental status, and it helps reduce your stress and anxiety. So there's the old saying that a doctor will prescribe you, go take a hike, go outside, and I think that it has a lot of meaning, and it really does help people. First step is just usually, opening the door and stepping outside. So during this webinar, we're going to look at 6 things that are going to help your next hiking adventure by planning, preparing, and executing. So we're going to go over how to plan and prep and map it out, your timing, elevation changes, know your hazards, fuel, and hydrate. So the Trail Conference is 100 years old. We were established in 1920. So in addition to all of those beautiful miles of maintained trails and the lands that they traverse through, we also publish our own hiking guides and maps of the region. We update those using volunteer power every 2 to 3 years. You wouldn't believe how much a map actually changes. Weather, superstorms, just natural occurrences, development. So maps definitely do need to be updated. But most important is to assess your group and self-assessment. So when planning out where you would like to go, you need to make sure that you're as strong of a hiker as your weakest hiker. You don't want to be putting yourself into a position where you've got this really great hike, it looks great on paper, it's got a ton of vistas, it's 3 miles long, you're ready for it. But is the person who's a novice hiker, who this might be their first time out on the trail this year, are they going to be ready for that 3-mile hike? And what type of elevation gain is occurring during that hike? And what's their physical fitness? You don't want to judge people, but you do want to make sure that you know that people are going to be up for it. And it's also great if you're leading a hike that you designate somebody who is the sweep. And that means that somebody is going to be at the very end, the caboose, as I call it. So definitely check and anticipate trail conditions. So we've had monster rain, over the course of the summer and into the fall. So you want to make sure that what's the trails like? Is it super muddy? Is that going to impact both your experience and actually are places going to be passable? Some of these mega rainstorms that we've had, their impact is still being seen today, weeks after the occurrence, that trails are impassable, places are closed. So you always want to check to make sure that all the conditions are set in place for you to have a great experience. So map your route. So as I mentioned, the Trail Conference publishes all of their own maps. So we have a 12 map set. I really like to get my physical map out and know where I'm going, but I also like to have our Avenza map, which is our digital, which you don't need cell service to have your blue dot and track you. But really important is also to know your bailout plan. Make sure you know that, is this a loop that has an offshoot that I can make, an 8-mile loop into a 3-mile loop? Is this an out and back? What if I get tired halfway? So make sure that you know your expectations and know when you can bail out. This is really great if you have a cell phone, you could take a photo of this or jot some down. This is stuff that you could pack in your backpack and just be prepared. It's kind of like a set it and forget it. Everything listed here, the 10 essentials, are really lightweight. None of them expire. So once you create this pack, it's kind of something that you could just have in your backpack. And it's good for more than just hiking and outdoor excursions. This is good to just have something in your car, just to have. And some of them are just antiseptic wipes, antibacterial ointment, bandages, gauze, blister treatment, because we know that could mess up your entire hike once you get a blister, ibuprofen, just to name a few. Really great things, very lightweight. So timing is everything. So this is a tricky one for the fall and the spring. It happens fast. People are used to in the summer being able to go out and not being, getting to their car at 8 p.m. and not having to worry about anything. But once the sun starts setting, things change. Twilight gets very tricky. So if you're going out for an afternoon after work and you start at 5 o'clock, know that you're going to need to be out of the woods no later than 6:50. Because I say even once, you don't really want to look when last light is. You really want to look at sunset and start heading back for wherever you are, because I think the trickiest time, in addition to complete darkness, is twilight, when there's kind of that gray area where the lighting gets a little tricky. So elevation changes everything. So as I mentioned, when you're planning out and assessing your group and you have this really great 3-mile hike, it has a lot of payoffs in terms of views. You really need to know the elevation gain of that. What's the difficulty of it? So I always use this example of Breakneck Ridge. So Breakneck Ridge is a really, really beautiful hike. But when you look on it on paper, it's just a little over or just under 2-mile hike. But you don't realize that for, more than a mile of that hike, you're doing hand over foot climbing, and it is very challenging. So although on paper it just says 2 miles and you get all these great payoffs, know that when you're looking at a map, the topo lines, which are the very, very small lines on the map, that the closer they are, the greater the elevation gain. Our maps do have elevation gain. So you can see, okay, I'm starting off at 300 elevation gain. And wow, within the first half a mile, I'm already up to 1,000 elevation. So that means that this is going to be a pretty challenging hike. Also, in addition to that elevation with the difficulty, but it also, if the weather, you have to dress for the weather. So if you are going and it's a slightly cool day and you just have a sweatshirt and nothing on, that sweatshirt is going to get pretty hot if your elevation gain is increasing at an exponential rate. So making sure that you're in layers. This is very important when dealing with the weather and the winter. Layering has a great deal of your satisfaction at the end of the hike. You don't want to be too cold and you don't want to be too hot. So keep elevation in consideration when dressing. So know your hazards. Hiking is safe. I think this is probably, the next few slides are the most frequently asked questions, and people are always wondering what they're going to encounter. So ticks. So I always like to say first that you can have a tick on you, and probably more commonly if you're just in your backyard. So just be mindful of when you're hiking tall brush. So any grass that's really overgrown, that's where ticks are going to be hanging out. They're going to be hanging out, in that taller grass, in less defined trails where you kind of have to bushwhack a little bit. They're not going to be jumping from the trees. If you wear light colors, long sleeves, and a hat, you should be okay. But the most important thing is always check after every single hike for ticks, and check in the areas. They love to go, in places that are warm. So any of your crevices under your armpits, check, because those are where you might find one. You could also treat your clothing. So you could spray, but you could also use, if you're looking to be outdoors, even just if you have a wooded area and you're doing housework, you could treat your clothes with perithium, where you treat it once and then it's good for 6 weeks. You can wash it and the perithium actually stays on there. So kind of a set it and forget it type of thing. So snakes, you're most likely to see snakes in the early summer, sunbathing, if it's a really hot, gorgeous day, and you're going through a hike that has a lot of rocks. Be mindful of where you step. They're usually seen, at least that's where I see them, is usually on a sunny day, sunbathing. So really important, especially if you're hiking with kids, try to remind them to be respectful and stay on the trail and only tread where you can see. And make sure if you do encounter and are unfortunately bit, that you can identify it. There's a lot of different kinds of species of snakes, but knowing what type of markings they have will be really beneficial when identifying, is it a poisonous or non-poisonous. So poison ivy, so the rule of thumb, 3 leaves, let it be. So this poison ivy is mostly seen at the forest's edge. So actually when you're waiting to start your hike and you're kind of meandering around the trailhead, that's usually where you're gonna see poison ivy. It is native to the area. So it can also be found on the ground or crawling up trees or climbing up trees. And there's a little picture of Techno. It's not on the 10 essentials, but this is a really great item to also have in your bag. Techno gets the oil off. So if you feel like you might have been exposed or touched, especially if you have little ones, it's really great to, preventively treat it. All you have to do is wash it and wash it off. That's a really other great item to have in your pack. So the bare necessities. So everybody wants to know, how many times am I going to see a bear? Am I going to encounter them? I'm in the woods all the time. I back up to a state forest, and I've only seen a bear 3 times hiking. And so just know that your likelihood of encountering a bear is slim, and that they typically avoid humans. The reason that they're becoming more attracted to what we call front country, so trails that are right from parks, is because of food that's left behind. And another misconception of that is people think because a banana peel or an apple core is biodegradable that they can and throw it. But those attract any sort of wildlife closer to the trails. So we definitely want to make sure we are packing everything that we bring in, that we bring out as well. But if you're staying overnight, things to consider are tightly sealing or double bagging your lunch. We live in a very social world, so just know that it's not worth the social media post. You can see them from a distance. We know what a bear looks like. You can tell your friends about it, but you really don't need to get that picture. So never approach them, surround them, or corner them. Just like any wild animal or human, when you do that, it brings a little bit of sense of danger and needing to protect yourself. I definitely have seen more cubs than I've seen full-grown bears, but seeing a cub definitely means to leave. They're super cute, but know that mama bear is lurking somewhere and will protect if she feels that her young is being threatened. Very important, never run, stay calm, turn your back, just walk away slowly. Try to make yourself as big as you possibly can, putting your hands over your head to make yourself look larger. Avoid direct eye contact, but speak in a loud manner. And again, if anybody encounters huffs or snapping, you're just too close, just back off slowly. If you are super concerned about them, just signs of activity that you could see, which would be bear, scat. I think knowing rock dens, I think a lot of people with kids especially like to explore little crevices. And while it's great to be adventurous, these are where bears would typically hibernate. So really just be mindful of when you're exploring that rock dens really make little great homes for a lot of different animals, especially our little bear friends. So it's really great to fuel and hydrate, especially not maybe if you're just going on a little, 1 mile jaunt, but if you're looking to gear up for a really large hike, it's really important to start fueling and hydrating the day before. When you begin to get thirsty, that means that you're already dehydrated. I think a really big downfall of new hikers is that they are just not carrying or drinking a sufficient amount of water. So definitely make sure that you're equipped with enough water, and even maybe if you can handle it in your pack, maybe an extra bottle of water for somebody in your group that can't. It's always great to have food that contains carbs or protein and salt or fat, something that you can kind of just munch on, so that as you're burning the calories that you're also intaking a little bit too. In the winter, it's really great to have thermos of hot beverages. It's awesome to get to a vista and to be able to warm the inside. with something nice in your thermos. So to prevent muscle cramps, there's a few examples below if people are prone to them, which many people are. So if you are, again, these are things that you could throw in your pack too, to have available so that you could avoid those muscle cramps. So know when to say when. The mountain is always going to be there. The trail is always going to be there. If today is just not your day, it's okay. You've already had however far you went on the hike. It's already great enough, and you can go and explore that time again. When people push themselves, or when it's about to, the light is starting and sunset is coming, people find themselves in trouble. So know when to say no. So getting to the top is optional, getting down is mandatory. So that's a really, something that you want to think of when you're doing that. And just know your signs and symptoms of dehydration. Like I mentioned, if you're already thirsty, you're on your way to being dehydrated. And a couple other examples to know, this is good for a hike, but it's also, we've had some really sweltering days in the summer. So also good just to know in your day-to-day life too. So this is trivia. So I forgot to mention it at the beginning. So for all of this that are on the webinar and would like to play along, how it's going to work is I'm going to read a trivia question, and then you're going to answer in the chat. You could just answer either the answer or the letter. And the first person who answers that trivia question in the chat will connect afterwards, and I will provide a map of your choosing so you can go out there and explore. So how many national parks are in the United States? Is it 49, 58, 63, or 50? So I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, so there are 63 national parks in the United States. It's a really great way to spend your vacation and get to know the beautiful land that we all live on. There's a lot of great places to explore. So definitely start your bucket list them out. And thank you for all playing. And I'll connect whoever the winner is after this webinar. So now we talked about how we can plan and prepare. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about where we can go and where we can adventure. I'll go through these slides a little bit faster. I want to respect everybody's time. So when you're hiking with kids and novices, just like rule number 1, assess your group, really got to assess the little legs. So even though I want to go 5-mile hikes, my almost 2-year-old is definitely not going to go there and will never get there when she's walking. So go short distance, limit your vertical gain. Just like with us, elevation definitely changes, and those little legs definitely get tired. So more payoffs per mile. So make sure that it's a place that is very accessible, but also has a lot of cool things to explore. If you help them prepare, this is not just for this, but if you help them prepare, they're going to be really into it. It's going to have a little bit of ownership. And invite a peer. It's really great to have an afternoon hike or a morning hike on a weekend with some friends. So it's really important around here in northern New Jersey and southern New York, we use this type of trail blazes. So markings on the tree are called blazes, and here are some tips that you can use while you're going out. So just a standard 1 blaze, that means you are going straight. But the most important is the start of a trail. So always think of a triangle. So when you see a triangle and it's pointing upwards, that means you're at the very beginning of a new trail and that you are going forward. So the end of the trail is the opposite, where the triangle is upside down. That signifies the end. And then if you're turning right or left, whatever the top of the 2 blazes are, that's the way that you're going to be turning. So you might come and encounter with a couple different colors on trails. So this is really great when you're planning. So back to step number 2, that you either write it down or you have a mental image of, okay, I'm starting on red. And then once, because there could be trails along your way that are leading off, doesn't mean that that's the way that you're going to be going. So you could pass a green, but you're looking for blue. So know your route. So jotting down which trail you're going to be turning on to is really important. This is something that the trail conference is constantly looking to improve, is how to not have so many different color markings, but to make, if a popular loop trail is right, red, green and blue, how to make that just one color. So that's something that we're constantly looking at. So, you know, making sure that you know that. But more tips, we do put our blazes, our volunteers put blazes on trees, on the ground, but because of weather, trees can fall down, things can get, you know, covered up. So make sure that you're really cognizant and paying attention of all junctions. So if you find yourself that you haven't seen a blaze for a while, you know, stop and walk back to the last blaze, and then really start taking a look to see where you might have missed something, or is there something down. We do have 2,100 miles of trails, so our volunteers are out there, but it is always helpful to drop the trail conference a note. Hey, this trail was really badly marked, or I think that there was some blowdowns. Having that information provided by the people who just hiked it is really invaluable. We can get that volunteer out there and to remedy the problem, because we want everybody to have great experiences. And if you have a great experience, then you're going to be going back out on the trail the next time too. Always rule of thumb, if it's not making sense, just turn back. So in Bergen County, I'm sure everyone knows the trails to hit are the North Jersey. We are anxiously awaiting our 2021 North Jersey Trails map. So whoever the winner was, I'm sorry, that map is not out. If you'd like to wait, it'll be coming out hopefully within the next week or two. So this is really great. You know, Jersey gets a really bad rap, but once you're in the woods, you're like, man, this is why it's called the Garden State. It's really beautiful, great places to explore. And as you could see, lots of junctions. Right close to Bergen County is Harriman Bear Mountain. If you're new to hiking or you're just tired of North Jersey trails, Bear Mountain is really great. It's very accessible. It's super close. But if you're newer to the area, I always suggest we have circuit hikes in Harriman, which is really great because each chapter gives a play-by-play of what the hike is and a description. If you're like me, I'm always looking, well, can you just tell me where to go? So these are really the best of the best loop hikes, which are, you know, famously what everybody's looking for. I'm going to start and end where my car is, and you compare it with the Bear Mountain map. So just some areas in Bear Mountain, if you're looking, and I'm sure Lori can contest to most of these, there's really great places to explore in Bear Mountain that could be different than your typical North Jersey. We got the Bear Mountain Bridge, we have Bald Mountain, we have some mines, Lemon Squeezer, and some just really tough hikes. A little more with some photos. So a trail that has nonstop views would be the West Mountain Timp. Most scenic is the and oldest, I should say, trail in this area is the Ramapo Dunderberg, and the coolest cave shelter. So there's really a lot of great places to explore in Harriman if you're looking to do something different. So a lot of people say, well, I live in the city, or I don't have a vehicle. So here are just some areas that you can take a train or a bus line and plop yourself right out into, you know, a trailhead. So these are really great areas to hit if, you know, having a car is a little bit troublesome. If you're really looking for the big mountains, really head north, as I mentioned earlier, to the Catskills of the Shungunk. You really feel like you're in one of those 63 national parks when you're out there. Really just gorgeous, worth the day hike. If you're looking for joining a group, We have our director of donor advising, Don Weiss, leads a strenuous group monthly. And so if you're looking to become active in the hiking world and looking to kick it up a notch to hikes that average on anywhere from 9 to 12 miles, that's the group for you. We have another trivia, same layout. So you've reached a muddy section of the trail. So what should you do? Walk around it, means treading on some, even if it means treading on some plants. Find some rocks and sticks to build stepping stones through it. Walk straight through it, or D, turn around. So what would you do? This is very common and highly trafficked areas where it gets a lot of foot. So what would you do? So I'll give it a few seconds for some people to tap on. So same thing, the winner of this question will receive a map of their choosing. Look at another 3 seconds. So although very innovative, I'm sure if you have little kids, they would love to build stepping stones through it, but we'll have volunteers do that. So it is C, walk straight through it. And the reason for that is a trail is a scar on the earth. So you want to keep making that one trail be as sustainable as possible. So if it's a muddy section, we will work to get volunteers and crews out there to remedy the situation instead of trekking and making the trail wider. So the trail conference, as I mentioned, has 2,400 volunteers who maintain and protect the land and the region. So there's a lot of different opportunities for folks to get involved. We're always looking for groups to come out. We do host corporate outings and would love if anybody has connections to make that happen, and it'd be a wonderful experience. So that's it. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Lori, if you could just read off some of the questions. I really appreciate and value everybody's time. Yeah, thank you, Michael, for hosting and having me here today.
Okay, so far there aren't any questions posted. If anybody does have any, oh, okay, we have one. Where can people get maps? Great question.
Sure, so you can purchase them online at nynjtc.org, and we have a shop there. We have our headquarters, which currently is not open. If you're looking to go in person, you can go to Camp Moore, Ramsey Outdoor, if you're looking to go to a retail, but we have them on our website.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Jen, while we're waiting for another question, not to put you on the spot, what's your favorite hike?
So right now, my favorite hike is in my backyard because I feel like that's, all I got to explore with 2 small kids, but it's really great. And I feel like I just keep expanding. So I back up to Wawayanda State Forest. So I guess I should say my favorite location is to explore Wawayanda. It's been really great. Beautiful trails. You hit some of the Appalachian Trail on it, Pinwheel Vista, the Pochuck Boardwalk. So you're getting really beautiful views, but you're also getting a lot of variety. In the spring, the mountain laurels are wonderful. There's a whole bunch of different bog bridging that you could see. And for me, it's just very accessible. But there's a lot of other ones too. What's your favorite, Lori?
Yes, you live in a beautiful area, and we have 2 other questions coming up, but especially this time of year, I absolutely love Ramapo right in the back of Trail Conference. I think it's just beautiful this time of year, and I do it once a week, and I think it changes every week, just the leaves and the waterfall and the cactus. It's just absolutely beautiful, the views.
Yeah, another tried and true area.
Yeah. Okay, so somebody asked, is there a way to access, it says how crowded a trail is. Are there some that are getting more overturned than others during COVID?
Yes, so actually where I live, so as I mentioned, Pinwheel Vista is a very popular trailhead in northern New Jersey, and we do. So there is a couple things. So you try to accommodate with parking, so having the parking as accommodating as possible, so people aren't parking along dangerous roadsides. And then in very high traffic area, in places like Breakneck Ridge, up in the Catskills, Slide Mountain, and a couple other areas in the Hudson Highland. We have trail stewards, which this photo is actually of trail stewards, and they are placed from Memorial Day through Columbus Day at very popular trailheads and educating the public on responsible trail usage of the trail. They'll also identify people, who are wearing the wrong footwear and let them know that, it's really not a smart idea to go up in your flip-flops. And they'll also redirect people to other trailheads that are close by so that people can, so we can mitigate the overuse. And the trail conference has been really trying to downplay some of the popular destinations that you could easily Google and highlight areas that are less crowded. But yes, it is definitely something that we're constantly trying to improve so that our trails are not loved to death.
Okay, excellent. Any suggestions for bringing dogs on a hike?
Always look to see whether or not they are required to be leashed. That is a big one. Also know your dog too. If your dog is friendly and sociable and good with other dogs, depending on where you go, your dog can be interacting with a lot of other dogs. And, there's nothing worse than having you feel anxious, your dog feel anxious, and the other people, that have another dog or small kids, have to worry about that. I don't personally have a dog. We have a book, Hiking with Dogs, Best Hikes with Dogs. And if you share your email with Michael, I can, ask around and see some great areas. But I always suggest that if you're hiking with a dog, probably to not bring them on, a really popular trailhead, as just because your dog might be great, you don't know what other dogs, how they are with other dogs too.
And winter hike suggestions, do you have any?
Not off the top of my head, but I can definitely get the answered for you. Winter hiking, as I've been working at the trail conference, I have found that a lot of people, their prime time to hike is in the winter because all the views and vistas just really open up and really change the whole experience. So there's a lot of great areas. I know a lot of people go snowshoeing in Camp Gaw. So there's a lot of great areas, depending on if you're looking to snowshoe or if you're looking to do some winter hiking. Always know that winter hiking is it's up to whether or not people have been there before you too. So you want to go to an area that has packed down the snow that you're going to. So it's a really great question, especially if you are looking to get into more winter hikes. So I will get back to you on that if you can share your email with Michael.
Okay. Any additional questions before we start to close this session? Okay, don't see any for right now. I have done a lot of winter hiking, Jennifer, and I love Harriman. But as you say, it's really important to know if it's been already tracked through or not. Because either your crampons or the spikes can work or they don't work if it's too packed, the snow. Okay, winter hike suggestions. Okay, we have an email address. Okay.
So Thank you to Lori and Jennifer for today's webinar. It was great and much appreciated, and I think it was very helpful to everyone. I do apologize. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but we are, as a follow-up to this webinar, we're hosting an outdoor hike on Thursday, October 7th at 5:00 p.m. at the Ramapo Reservation. That's 608 Ramapo Valley Road in Mahwah. We are meeting to the right of the parking lot near the ruins. You may bring your family and friends. They are welcomed, as well as your pets. Please dress appropriately, bring water, and we will be having some handouts and giveaways for those that attend. And to register, please email assistadmin@oakland-nj.org by Wednesday, October 6th. And we hope to see you on the trails. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That hike is going to be 2 miles. There is a little bit of an incline, so just be cautious of that. We'll be going up to the waterfall and doing a loop back.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so
Jennifer and
much.
Lily. Thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed. And this webinar will be on the Borough of Oakland YouTube channel for those to view later.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks, Michael, and everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Have a
thank you
great
so
day.
much.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll see you on the